Hey everyone, I'm Jennifer with Spark Flash Fiction, and we are here tonight with Sharon Hughson, who is the author of Recipe for Magic from our latest issue. So let me introduce her real quick, and then we will hop into the interview. Sharon Hughson inhales words and exhales stories. If only it happened that easily. Sharon writes, edits, and coaches other writers at her home on the Columbia River in Oregon. She enjoys playing piano, walking, biking, hiking, crocheting, and traveling with her husband. With two grown sons living nearby, she often spoils her four grandchildren, much to the chagrin of her entitled cats. She has published sweet and Christian romances, biblical fiction, contemporary Christian women's fiction, and Bible study books. So, all right, Sharon, let's hop into the most important question. What fairy tale did you base your story on, and why did you choose that fairy tale?
So this is kind of a fun story, I guess, maybe. So it's a raven's feather is the raven's feather is the fairy tale. It's fairly clear, right? Right. The first line, she's like, the raven said. So, but that wasn't my first choice. The first story that I wrote was a Jack and the Beanstalk retelling, and it was magic coffee beans, and the love interest was the harp, who was actually a cursed famous harpist who was cursed and changed into the harp and whatever for the giant wizardess, and he saved her, rescued her for them. And so anyway, but I could not get it under 1,000 words because there was just world building and backstory. There's just too much stuff, right, that needed to happen. And so I did finish it and write it, and it's right at 2,000 words, and I published it on my blog for a Fiction Friday feature that I do. So that was my first choice. Obviously, magic coffee beans. Who was the name for that, right? But when what I try to do when you guys do a call is write a couple stories and then choose the one that I like the best. And so I like the Jack and the Beanstalk one the best. But when I sent them to my critique group, they all chose Recipe for Magic anyway. And so I was like, oh, sad day, but okay. And so what I really liked about it was the family recipe idea. And, I kind of think cooking shows are kind of fun, and that a cooking competition would be kind of fun. So it was fun to throw that into a story and finally get to write a story that included those elements. So that was fun.
Oh, that does sound fun. I like that. And I feel you there because I was going to write one for social media, and I had this idea and I started writing it out, and I was like, this is not a flash fiction story idea because it's going to take way too many words to make it work. And I finally just set it aside, and I was like, I'll have fun with that later. But what is your favorite fairy tale, and has it changed since you were young?
So I think I've cycled through a lot of favorites as I've grown up, and especially as Disney has made the movies, and other people, and like going, oh wow, I didn't even think about that fairy tale. But I think my favorite, really, kind of through the long haul, is Hansel and Gretel. And I know that's probably an interesting one. I have not, and I always watch all the new movies and retellings, and I have not been a fan of any of them. I do not think they've done the story justice, sadly. So someone needs to do that. Maybe I should. Anyway, but I really empathized with the kids' home situation. When I was a kid, my home situation was kind of rough. And I loved that Gretel was the one who figured it out and rescued them both. So, I got the smart Shiro in there. And so I really liked that. So that's why it's my favorite.
Gotcha, gotcha. I have to say that's one of those as a kid kind of scared me a little bit because like you go to candy and then there's a witch that's going to eat you, It's like a cautionary tale. All right.
Well, Grimm's Brothers fairy tales are pretty grim if you read the originals. I mean, it's like, okay.
Yeah, I remember having my eyes open to the fact that the original Little Mermaid did not end with her getting the prince. She like turns into like sea foam or something. I'm like, well, that's depressing. Um, so you write in a lot of different genres, but like, what is your favorite subgenre of romance specifically?
So specifically, I am a fan of romantasy. So that's a fantasy romance, right? I think, isn't that romantasy? I've kind of seen that around. I don't know if it's a real thing or not,
I think
but
so.
that's
Yeah.
my favorite subgenre. I mean, it might be urban, it might be shifters, it might be epic, it might be whatever, but I like romantasy. So, um, most things of those happen in a fantastical world, right? Because most of what I've written actually happens in the real world. And so it's kind of nice to have that jump off.
Yeah. Now you shared in your takeover the other day that you had a series that you recommended to people. Can you tell us a little bit about that fantasy series and why you loved it so much? I think it was called The Elven Alliance.
Yeah. Yes. So I actually wrapped that right in with my favorite trope question. So
Oh, sorry. Jumping ahead over here.
so it's all right. So the first book in that is called Fierce Hearted. And it's like 6 books, 7 books, 8 books, maybe. I don't know. It's pretty extensive, but it's complete. So therefore, if you're a person who likes to binge read a series, you can because it's complete. No waiting around. But the first one has my favorite trope, which is arranged marriage, forced marriage, marriage of convenience, whatever it is. In this case, it's marriage between a human woman and an elf prince. So a human princess and an elf prince. And so it's a very interesting story. And she develops it into a really big world about there's kingdom wars and how the Elven Alliance, so they have an alliance with the elves, and the Elven kingdom is in the middle. And so all 3 kingdoms end up having an alliance at the end, which is why it's called that. And so it's really fantastic. It also features another thing where I really like, where the different stories are siblings. So you get to see the siblings' romances in the other story. So you get to meet the characters, right? The whole character for the series in the first book, and then you get to see them have their own romances later. So it's something to love about it if you love those things.
Yeah, I am a sucker for a series that follows siblings. And I don't know, I think it's because you get to know them really well in the first book. And because that character cares about them, then you start caring about them. And it's just kind of fun to follow them through the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Now, what we talked about how you love reading like Marriage with Convenience, Forced Marriage, Arranged Marriage, and all that. Do you also like writing those kinds of stories, or do you find yourself kind of going towards a different trope when you're actually writing?
Yeah, I'm more of the friend to lover or the best friend sibling or the belated love epiphany, like where, okay, I realized too late that, oh, I might be in love with you and you don't even see me or whatever. So those are kind of the ones I tend more to write. I think those are the ones I identify with. My husband and I, it's a friends to lover romance. And so um, I think that's kind of why and I did date my best friend's brother when I was in high school. And so I feel like those are just tropes that I relate to. And so they're easy to write, or they're the story ideas that come to my mind. I wouldn't necessarily say easy to write, but
Yes. Well, have you ever written a Marriage with Convenience story?
I don't think I have. I do not think I have. I should, right? Since I like it.
Yeah. But like to me, when you love a trope so much, it makes it harder to write. Like because you get that like perfectionist
Right.
tendency and you want it to be like the best story ever. And like this
Yeah.
is just junk.
Yeah.
Makes it really hard. But
That's probably it.
have you ever read a fairy tale retelling recently? Like I know there's a lot of them out there, a lot of different authors love doing them, but have you read one recently and you're like, this is so good, I need to tell everybody about
I actually have.
it?
And sometimes, like, I'll go through a phase, but sometimes I'll avoid the retellings because especially if I get a few that are like really predictable or whatever, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, so that was so obvious. And sometimes you want that, right? And other times you're like, no, well, twist this up a little bit. Anyway, so recently there was a Sacrificed Hearts, is the name of the series. Tara Grace was the first author in that series. And it was really supposed to be about monsters, right? But one of the books, it's called Island of Secrets by Deborah Grace White, was a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And it was super well done and super different. It was way different than what you normally would think. So had a lot over time. One thing I liked about it is the romance grew over time. It wasn't one of those sudden things and then, oh yes, we're because that's what Beauty and the Beast does, right? She's his prisoner and she has to. And so this gal wasn't really her prisoner. It was kind of she was sacrificed to the beast, but he was cursed and her love would break the curse. So to me, it was really a Beauty and the Beast story. It just that she had a different backstory than what Belle did. So it was really interesting. And so Island of Secrets is what it's called because she comes from the island that sacrificed her. to this beast. So to the beast. So highly recommend. I really liked it. The character interactions between them. He's a beast, but I mean, you see his story beforehand, so you kind of have a sympathy for him, and it's really well done. Really well done. It has that, since it's dual point POV as a real romance, usually is, because a lot of times Beauty and the Beast is just all beauty story, right?
Mhm.
And so this was really great to kind of have it, and you get to have Beast's perspective too. So there it is.
That sounds really interesting.
Get it, read it. It's good.
All right, so now that we're talking about books, let's talk about some sweet romance authors that you love and you tend to recommend to anyone who is looking for a good, sweet story.
Okay, so I actually personally know some people, but I love their writing too. One of them is Michelle Sass Alexson, and she actually has a new story coming out. I just pre-ordered it today. Yeah, and it's kind of it's a adventure suspense type-ish story, and it's set in, I want to say Montana, but it might be Alaska. I'm sorry. I read so many books. But anyway, I'm so really excited. It's coming out July 9th. It releases. So I'm really excited about that. And then another person I'd love to read is Rachel Russell. She does such a great job developing the characters. So their wounds are just really, it's really authentic. When you get done reading her book, you're like, I feel like I know these people. If I met them on the street, I would be like, hey, yeah, I know you. So definitely her too. And then obviously, if you want a clean romantasy, Tara Grace writes all clean stuff. So sweet.
All right, good. Now I'm going to throw a question at you I didn't prepare you for, but you are one of our veteran writers. You've featured in like several of our issues. So if you were talking to someone that was considering submitting to Spark, what is the first piece of advice that you would likely give them?
So read the issues so you kind of have an idea of what the thing is. And plus it's so easy, right?
Mhm.
Read the flash fiction, it's just like, oh yeah. So do that, but then have fun. That's what I like, is you guys really take a lot of fun twists and tropes and just whatever. I feel like you always have a good representation of more fun stories that you wouldn't necessarily see anyone else. So it's like, hey, something fun. And writing flash fiction is hard for a lot of people who write long form. And so it's like, just focus on one aspect, their first date, their meet cute, their whatever. So if you want flash, it has to be super short. But definitely read the issues, because it's so fast. They go so fast and they're so fun. So many fun different stories in those. So yeah.
That is good advice. I like that a lot. Now, where can readers find you if they want to connect with you?
So as far as social media goes, I'm most active on Facebook. Yes, I am in that age group, so you can find me there. On Facebook, I have an author page. I have a reading group. I also have a YouTube channel that's really aimed at writers. So if you're a writer and you'd like writerly advice, I try and keep nice short videos, but that's about that kind of aims more toward my coaching and editing side of myself, not my author side. So definitely there too. And of course, I have a website, SharonHughson.com. You can find everything about me there.
All right, awesome. If you haven't read her story, Recipe for Magic, you can find that on our website for free. You can go and check it out. And you can also just start scrolling through some of our other issues. You will eventually find her. I think she's in at least one issue a year, if not two or three. I'm not even joking when I say that she's one of our veterans. But y'all have a wonderful night. Get a lot of reading done this weekend. Hopefully it's summer, which is the perfect time to just be lazy and read a book. But anyways, thank you, Sharon, for joining us. And thank you everyone for watching. Y'all have a great night.